Hi, 안녕하세요. So the purpose of this video is to just talk a little bit about what's happening with the coronavirus with me and my family. I'm living in Seoul, in Southeast Seoul, if you will. Um, and these days, we're living a pretty normal life. There's not a lot of fear or hoarding or things, some crazy things like I've seen in the news or things that have been going back on in my home country, which is the US. Talking with my relatives there about not being and my friends not being able to get bread or milk or toilet paper or things of this nature. But in Korea, no problem. Nobody's hoarding rice or bread or milk or flour or yogurt or canned goods or anything of this nature. You might have seen my other videos, if this one's not linked to those, of just my local neighborhood where there's not a shortage of anything. Some places of business that were exposed to people who had the virus closed for a couple days, but they're not closed, indefinitely. Probably just did a good cleaning, and so those places will reopen or have reopened already. And in my neighborhood, there is maybe one or two places of business that were closed, and one has been closed for about 6 days, maybe 7 days. So anyway, so it's less normal than normal. Let's put it that way. It's unusual. In fact, at least in my neighborhood. My neighborhood too, I should say, is I'm not right next to a subway line or subway station, but there's a bus route. But primarily in my section, it's sort of an area where everybody really has to drive or walk. Be a good walker. They'll need to walk about a mile to get to the nearest subway station. So as far as this impacting my family, my daughter's going back to her academy in the afternoons, but not her primary first grade school, if you will, not elementary school. So she's off, they're off for several weeks, and it may be a little bit more delayed beyond next week. But for now, she's been going back to her after school program, which had been delayed as well. But we thought, well, everybody's wearing masks, everybody's very cautious. In Korea, because they've been through MERS and SARS, and their excellent response to this virus has been well documented. So it's not as, there's no panic here. Nobody's panic stricken about it because they've been through this before. And they're accustomed to it, if you will. I would say that's a good way to put it. Everyone's pretty used to it. It's pretty, I don't want to say it's standard or normal by any means, but it's very representative of how they have dealt with past diseases here in that regard. And no, there is no city or place on lockdown in the country at this moment. So everything's pretty much open. People are free to travel anywhere. They don't need to show IDs or anything like this. Just reading in the news 2 days ago, California is on lockdown. It's where one of my family members lives. And so they're basically sheltering in place in California, not here, not happening at all. I walk around my whole neighborhood, go anywhere I want, I drive wherever, no problem. So it's very, very big difference. In terms of just mental health here, again, people have been through this before over in Seoul and in Korea, so they're very used to this process, I would say. And also because people here generally have a lot of masks anyway. There's a lot of mask production or importing and usage because of what we call misimanje, the yellow dust from China, has been quite heavy in pollution because Korea's proximity is so close to China. They get a lot of dust blown over the Chinese Sea. And so people do wear masks actually pretty normally throughout the year, even myself, because it's just microparticles. And so I think a lot of people were well prepared in that regard. And one other point, in our building and in every building in our housing complex, there are hand sanitizers put into the elevators, and this is pretty common. Of course, those are not unusual at hospitals and other places, but anyway, it's common here now, so we can clean our hands in the elevator because of the resiliency of the bacteria to stay on stainless steel. And a lot of things in Korea are made of stainless steel. Stainless steel railings in public all over. So
And it's all free.
and it's all free. So there's no charge for hand sanitizers in your own housing complex. So there are some pleasant courtesies that are very helpful to everybody, and that's just a great way to put it, really. One for all for one, if you will. In that regard, things are pretty clean. People do practice social distancing pretty well. Of course, families are together and they're clustered, and if nobody's ill, it's not a problem. We've been to children's clinics. We've been to a hospital for surgery in the last month with our son. Of course, this wasn't even on the radar so much then. It definitely has blown up since then. But today we went out and we were able to buy our masks. So I got my KF94 mask. We can buy 2 a week at a pharmacy. And we went today on Saturday, which is because I didn't go on the day that's assigned to my birth year. And so we also got masks for the kids. So each child can get 2 masks per week from a pharmacy, and each adult can get 2 masks per week from a pharmacy. And like I said, we actually had a box of children's masks and a box of adult masks already. We just have them sitting in our closet here because of the dust and because if our kids get sick. And it's pretty normal actually in Korea. If someone even has a cold, they will wear a mask in public just to not infect other people. It's very self-conscious. And I've seen that almost, I think, as long as I've been in Korea, which has been a long time. So,
How much is the mask?
That's a good question. How much are the masks? Maybe
$1.
$1 a piece?
Yeah.
Okay, $1 a piece, so no gouging. The government often sets price controls for, they can't even charge, even during a holiday season, they can't overcharge for bottles of water, even.
They're on it. Yeah.
So
the government is on it.
they're very, very aware of what's going on. So these masks just $1 each, whereas a whole box of maybe, what did we buy? We bought a whole box of these last year.
Yeah,
Maybe
it was
like
much cheaper back
12
then.
$12 back then or something like that. $12,000, yeah.
The whole like 30 masks.
30 masks, yeah, so very inexpensive, but those will probably go up. But again, not hard to get. We had a supply on hand, and we can pick these up at the pharmacy, our local pharmacy. And around us, local means there are probably 7 pharmacies within a square mile.
5 minutes walk.
So a 5-minute walk, yeah, easy. So less than a square mile. What else is on your mind? Shopping? Shopping's no trouble. I mentioned about it's very easy to go get anything. And again, I guess I would say back to the mental health issue, people are not really afraid here. They could be concerned, but not really afraid of catching COVID-19 in that regard. So again, because they've been through MERS and SARS, everybody's well prepared, and they're used to this, if you will, illness ritual in a way.
And Korea has the awesome medical system.
Yeah, and actually they've been very, very proactive, as I said, because of the past problems they've had with other diseases here. They're very proactive, and they do contain things right away. And in this regard too, I think in this case it was much more interesting that they were able to do drive-through testing, which I don't think they had done before for MERS or SARS. So they're able to do the high level of testing that they've been able to perform because of their past preparedness. And so just to reiterate, for this disease that's going on right now, the COVID-19, if in Korea, if you do catch it, it's free to test. So it's very incentivized actually by the government for people to go test if they have a cough or a fever of any type. It's all free. if they go test. If all free if they get admitted and quarantined, which they will do if people are positive, they will quarantine them right away. So yeah, they'll lock you in, but it's for a good cause, for a good point too. So all treatment is free, and that goes a long way here, definitely. And in terms of compensation, I heard there is some type of compensation that will be given to people who are contagious, if you will, who've caught it. But I don't know about the amount, so I'll do a little research on that. Just on another side note, in terms of healthcare in Korea, years back, Obama said this country has one of the best medical systems. Population is just a little bit less than California's population, just around 50 million in Korea nowadays, I think, nationally. So the point being that tax rates are different here, and things are a little easier to contribute toward economically in some regard, but I won't get all into that. The main point being is that the healthcare system is very well run. It's very inexpensive for the average person. So for example, if my daughter is sick or son and they have a cold or even the flu, which they've never had actually. Anyway, if they have a cold, we'll go to the pediatric clinic and we'll walk out of there with just a $2 payment with medication. Or a medication on top of that might be another $3 or $4. So really like way less than $10 for any visit, all in with medication.
Less than five.
Yeah, excuse me, probably less than 5. Even William's hernia last month, or a couple weeks ago, that was like what, $1,000 bill, maybe.
It was 700.
So he had a double hernia, and we were in for the day for 8 hours with the surgery and the recovery. And of the payment we made, because we have private personal insurance as well, we get reimbursed like 90% of what we paid. So it's very well set up, and it helps people who need it, definitely, which is great. And that's how things really work over here. So again, back to the COVID-19, it's free to test. It's very well managed. People can drive up and get tested. You may have seen that on the news or not. Well, they'll just swab you, stick the Q-tip right up there, up the nasal cavity. And for me, even when I had H1N1 years ago, and that was pretty rough, let me tell you, not cool. But it only cost me like $30. I went to the ER, got an IV, came back home and just recovered at home in 3-4 days. So very inexpensive. That's all I really have to say about all of that. But if you like what I've had to say, please click the like button, subscribe. I'd be happy to hear from you, and be sure to leave a comment if anything's in error or you want to contribute.